Hello, and welcome to part 3 of my Podfic of Story of Redemption. There aren't any trigger warnings for this one, so let's just get started. Chapter 3. Okay. Alan could handle this. He could handle this. His queen apparently had a nightmare, one that made her a better person. It was a good thing, if very jarring. Still, while he wasn't particularly glad she had to deal with something so obviously upsetting, he was still glad she was becoming better. After another 5 minutes of processing everything in his mind, he looked up to find the queen pacing and muttering. That was also something she'd never done before, preferring to think while sitting still and remaining silent. "Your Highness, it's time to go," Alan said, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Then something very concerning happened. She flinched. She flinched as though she was afraid Alan would hit her. "Ah, Alan, you startled me. Shall we go, then?" Rillian asked, with a nervous smile. No, Alan thought. That wasn't a startled movement. That was the same flinch I've seen from your servants when you're in a bad mood. Why did you think I would hit you? That was what he wanted to ask, but he didn't. The queen obviously was hoping he didn't notice, judging by the look on her face. So he nodded and tried to give her a reassuring smile. She smiled back and squared her shoulders. "Time to go put on a show," she said, and followed him to the room. Once there, she winked at him, then shoved open the door. "What moron decided that it was acceptable to have a meeting this early?" she more declared rather than asked. "Ah, your Majesty. Good, we can begin the meeting," one of the ministers said, tactfully ignoring her outburst. Alan walked into the room and stood by the door, like he usually did. She sat down, all proper and ladylike, though the slightly exaggerated pout on her face made it far less dignified. "So what's wrong with the peasants? I assume you wouldn't drag me here if there wasn't some problem you're too dumb to fix yourselves." Even knowing she was acting, Alan had to hold in a sigh at her antics. "Your Majesty, your people are starving," said Alan's adoptive father. Alan was a bit impressed he was able to keep his tone level. "Well, then why don't they just buy food?" Rillian asked. Alan was pretty sure she knew the answer to this, so he wasn't entirely sure why she was asking. "They don't have the money. Many are struggling to find work. Those who can aren't paid enough to handle Her Majesty's harsh taxes. Your Majesty, you are destroying your people, and this needs to stop." Alan winced. Saying that was a good way to get executed, and it seemed like the ministers knew it, for they immediately began scolding Lionheart and trying to placate the queen. "I'm sorry about him, your Highness. He will be executed immediately," one of the ministers said. "No, I am bored of executions. I have a much more fitting punishment," she said, with a feral grin that made a shiver run up Alan's spine, and he had to remind himself that she was just acting so the man wouldn't be executed. She was just acting, right? "I'm going to write a play," Rillian said. "I had a dream last night, and I wish to see it again. So the peasants will be performing it. Since the man is so adamant that the peasants need money, I will give them money for working in my play. So long as they do a good job. But you," she pointed at Lionheart, "for disrespecting me, you will have to be in my play and not be paid," Rillian screeched. Alan winced. Yikes. That was better than an execution, but not by much. "In fact, you will be in charge of paying the other peasants in the play," Rillian continued. "You'll be in charge of making sure everyone gets their pay. Everyone but you. Am I clear?" That was almost devious. It was a perfect irony that the one bugging her about paying the peasants would be the only person to work but not be paid. For just a moment Ellen wondered if Lionheart had actually offended her. But no. If he did that, then she wouldn't have gone with this whole play idea on his and the other people's behalf. "Yes, your Highness." Lionheart sounded resigned, but Alan figured he had come here expecting to be executed, like the other peasant representatives before him. Then he continued. "How much will I be paying the peasants in your play, your Majesty?" he asked. He sounded more respectful now, probably not wanting to offend the Queen now that she was actually doing something. "Well, they'll have to come to practice, and won't come if there's no consequence for doing so. Plus, they only do the bare minimum if I threaten them. So if I want them to do a good job, then—" She made an exaggerated shrug. I suppose I'll give them a couple copper coins for doing a good job at learning to play. Like my mom when she gave me treats to learn to read. She sniffed. Those coins are ugly anyway. Alan had to stop himself from grinning. The kingdom had 5 kinds of money: wooden coins, steel coins, copper coins, silver coins, and gold coins. A couple copper coins could easily buy a couple loaves of bread, assuming it was the cheap kind at least. So a couple copper coins per practice, that would certainly help her people. Okay, what about once they learn it? Lionheart asked. He sounded like he couldn't believe what he was hearing, and honestly, Alan couldn't really blame him. He almost couldn't believe this either. Hmm, well then, I suppose I do want them to hurry up and learn it. She gave a loud sigh. I suppose I'll give them each a gold coin after they actually perform it, but only one, and only if they do a good job. Maybe they can put it on their wall to make their houses less ugly. From his expressions, Alan could see the exact moment that his father decided to ignore what the Queen had just said in favor of an "at least she's giving them the money" sort of mentality. So, 2 copper coins for each person doing the practice, and 1 gold once they actually perform? Lionheart asked. Yes, but they'll only get gold for the first time, because they learned it. After that they can only have a silver one, she yelled. Now go away, I'm going to write my play now. Tell the stupid peasants to practice their acting and singing so they can be good enough to be worth the effort. With that, the Queen walked away, beckoning Alan to follow. She walked with purpose and seemed angry, so he followed silently. Once they got to her room, she sat on the bed with an exhausted exhale and a small smile. I think that went well, Lillian said cheerfully. Nobody will be expecting some overnight change, until the play airs at least. Even better, I'll be giving back to the people. I'll probably choose which people end up in it, based on how much they need the money, or if they want to use it to gain favor with me, or the other upper class people. What do you think, Alan? She looked up at him from her spot on the bed. I I think Her Majesty is an incredible actor herself. I genuinely thought you were mad at some points during that, Alan said honestly. Thank you. I believe the fact that I knew that I had to play a role is what gave me the idea for having the play itself, though maybe in retrospect I should have chosen a play that already exists, rather than taking the time to write my own. Oh well, there's nothing I can do about that now, since I'm sure that man will mention the fact that I intend to write my own. She sighed. Besides, I'd like that, dream to still exist in this world, even if it's only in the form of a fictional story. That makes sense, Alan agreed. He hesitated a bit, wondering if he should mention the other thing that was bothering him. You look troubled. I want you to speak freely on this matter. I will not be offended, Rillian said sincerely. That punishment you gave the man, it felt a bit harsh, he admitted. It's good that you didn't execute him, but I don't want him to starve either. I know. I have every intention of having the man's daughter play a role in the play. The 2 copper coins should be enough for a meal for 2 people, maybe more than one if you're willing to have smaller rations, she said. Though I will admit I don't particularly love the idea of making someone work without pay. It was the only thing I could think of that would seem reasonable of me, or rather, unreasonable, but in character for me, that wasn't an execution. Alan nodded. This made a lot of sense. Part of his brain was worried that if she could act well enough to fool the ministers, who had talked with her regularly for years, she could be acting now. Still, it was a lot easier to believe that the other side of her was the act this time, because it was probably a lot easier for her to act angry than act like she isn't angry, at least if past experience was anything to go off of. Still, it bothered him. He was about to ask where she learned to act and manipulate people the way she had the ministers, when he was suddenly pushed into the closet by Rillian. He was so shocked he didn't even resist, or even move once inside, and a second later he realized why, as he heard footsteps approaching the door. Okay, he thought. So she probably didn't want anyone to realize I'm in her room. Maybe she thinks it would be suspicious somehow? Still, there were probably better ways to handle it than shoving me into the closet like some married lady who didn't want to be caught cheating on her husband. Particularly since that's such a popular stereotype. If anyone saw me in here, they would probably think something inappropriate was going on. Ew. The rumors would be awful. Particularly since I couldn't refute them by saying, ew, no, she's my twin sister, like I would want to if we hadn't been separated. Alan was cut off from that line of thought by the door opening. Your Highness? Ellen recognized the voice of one of the ministers. What? The Queen said, sounding annoyed. I'm in the middle of working on my play. What could possibly be so important that you feel the need to interrupt me? Ah, yes. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. But the play is the exact reason I wish to talk about this play idea of yours, the minister said. You see, simple-minded peasant folk are unlikely to be able to meet your demands. You really should not give false hope to people who are simply not capable of meeting your expectations. What? Ellen thought. There is a reason that peasants are peasants after all, the man continued. It would be far kinder to ignore the peasant folk and hire professionals capable of meeting your demands. Plus, you would likely need to pay far less for their services than what you would need to pay the peasants to motivate them enough to even agree to so much as try. Alan was shaking with anger. The direct misinformation, when really Anne was finally getting a bit better. He wasn't truly angry with his sister before, and certainly wasn't now that he realized someone had been directly telling her all the awful things she believed. Then you would only lose money when they aren't able to do as they promise, the minister continued, or when they decide to steal from you. It's what I always say. When it comes to peasants, they are lazy and you need a firm hand to deal with them. That is why you have to punish them when they step out of line, or else they will demand more and more of you until you are worse off than they are. I don't want that to happen to you, Lillian. You are like a daughter to me. I was friends with your mother and wouldn't want to see that late queen's daughter suffer. That is why I do my best to guide you in the right direction. The minister spoke so gently that Alan could almost believe he was actually genuine. Except he knew that people were starving. Maybe if Rillian hadn't mentioned earlier that they got more money as she did, and that's why they had wanted her to treat her people that way, he might have thought the man was genuine. But instead he was filled with fury. How dare he manipulate his sister, because that's obviously what had happened. Rillian had been taught by the ministers from the age of 8 onward. That was common knowledge. Plus, Ellen recognized many of the awful beliefs that Rillian held, in the words of that minister, such as the belief that the peasants were somehow lesser than her, or that she needed harsh punishments to keep her people in line. Here the minister was, telling her those things to her face. How dare he? The worst part was, Ellen realized, he'd been fooled too. Whenever the ministers had spoken to him or the other servants, they'd always spoken as though they tried to be a voice of reason in Rillian's life, but she was simply too stubborn in her foolish beliefs. Alan was furious. The minister's lecture continued on, and as Alan listened, he grew horrified. Always remember, we, the ministers, are the only people you can truly trust. Every other person wants to steal from you or kill you, no matter how good they may be at pretending. Even your precious servant, Alan, I believe, even he would betray you for mere coin if he got the chance. Excuse me? Alan thought, before the conversation continued. His queen simply scoffed. I know that. You've been telling me since I was 8, but I'm a grown-up now and I can make my own decisions. Don't treat me like I'm a little girl, she yelled and stomped her foot. Had the ministers really been telling her she couldn't trust anyone but them? Since she was 8? Alan wondered. I was only reminding you, the minister placated. Alan was bothered that he didn't refute the claim, even if he didn't explicitly confirm it. Besides, I'm having the peasants do it for a reason, Rillian began. For a terrible moment, Alan thought she was going to reveal everything to that minister. He wanted to rush out of the closet to tell her to shut up. He wanted to tell her that they were manipulating her, but she continued before he could move a centimeter. They don't have food. If they starve to death, I won't be able to get my brioche. Also, I'm tired of giving my money to other kingdoms. It's my money, so it should stay in my kingdom. If you are sure that is what you want, I won't stop you, the minister said. As if you could, she screeched. But just reconsider for me, all right? I wholeheartedly believe you will be a wonderful queen, so long as you don't make any critical mistakes. Don't fret, though, my dear. That is why you have us to help you, and you always will. No matter what, you can trust us, all right? The minister said. Yes, yes, I know, Minus. I've always trusted you. Can I get back to writing my play now? Rillian said. Of course, my queen, the minister said. Then Alan heard the door open again, then close. However, he didn't dare exit the closet. He didn't actually know if the minister had left or if something else was going on. A minute or so later, Lillian opened the door to the closet. It's okay now, she told him. I'm sorry for shoving you in here, but I knew that the minister would never show his true colors if they knew there was another person present. I I just wanted you to understand why I don't trust them. I didn't realize for so long, but looking back, it's obvious what they were doing. Looking back, it's obvious that they never said such harsh things against the people when a servant was present. I needed you to see, or I suppose hear for yourself, Rillian explained. Alan nodded. Shoving him into the closet made a lot more sense now. He walked out into the main bedroom. I understand. Have they really been telling you not to trust anyone? Since you were 8? He couldn't help asking. That and many other things. It's not as though they are completely wrong either, she sighed. I can't trust almost anyone. The ministers were mainly wrong about being the ones I could trust, rather than the idea of not being able to trust or show any sort of weakness for others to exploit. Alan felt his heart twinge in pain and sympathy as he took in her expression, both lonely and exhausted. Still, she continued with a small smile, I trust you, though I'll admit it's mainly because of what happened in my dream. She shook her head slightly. Still, I can't live my life unable to trust a single person, not when I'm in such a precarious position. I need someone on my side. That could never be any of the ministers, and even if it was only based on a dream, perhaps my subconscious sees you in ways I cannot. So I trust you, as much as I can trust anyone. I'm flattered, Your Highness, he smiled at her. Then a sudden horrible thought occurred to him, remembering her flinch from earlier. Were the ministers the cause of that? Your Highness, have the ministers ever hurt you? Physically, I mean? He asked. No, they haven't. Don't worry. She smiled. Looking into her eyes, her words felt honest. But if the ministers never hurt her, who had?